In this lesson, we're going to be looking at angle pairs. And let's remind ourselves that pairs means two. So the first word we're going to be looking at is vertical angles. So vertical angles are two intersecting lines where our opposite angles are congruent. So let's draw two intersecting lines, and this angle ends up being congruent to this angle. So if this is 120 degrees, then this angle is also 120 degrees. And if this angle is 60 degrees, then this angle is also going to be 60 degrees. So anytime you have two intersecting lines, opposite angles will be congruent. Now there's a way that we could remember vertical lines. If you draw two intersecting lines, we've got the V here for vertical, and then we can put that A there. There's my A for angles. Just a fun way to identify them. All right. Next word is linear pair. So a linear pair is two angles that share a side that also form a line and have a sum of 180. So let's draw a line. Let's make two angles. So this is my first angle, and we'll say that this angle is 80 degrees. And then we have this angle that is 100 degrees. So those two angles, they form a line. They have a sum of 180. And then the two angles also share a line. Share a side. If you look at the word, it has the word line in it. So I'd be able to identify that it should be a line. And then pair means two. So it's two angles that form a line. All right, the next one is that we have adjacent angles. Now, adjacent angles are just two angles that share a side. So if we look at, let's draw that linear pair again, like this one. Notice how they are sharing this side. So this angle and this angle are sharing this side. So that means that these two angles are adjacent angles. So the key word is share. Now let's go ahead and draw some non-adjacent. So for my non-adjacent ones, it's just two angles that don't share a side. Let's go on to complementary and supplementary angles. So for complementary angles, we have two angles that are equal to 90 degrees. For supplementary angles, it's any two angles that equal to 180 degrees. So let's see what that looks like on a diagram. So for this one, we're going to first draw a 90-degree angle and create a common side. So I'm going to say this is, 30 degrees, and this one has to be 60 in order to make that 90-degree angle. So we can say that these two angles are complementary. So these, because they're sharing the side, then these are called adjacent complementary angles. Okay, so now let's look at an example of another set of complementary angles. Let's say this is 60 degrees, and again, this one is 30 degrees. They're equal to 90 degrees, but they're not sharing a common side. So these are going to be non-adjacent complementary angles. So remember, it says any two, so they could either be adjacent or they can be non-adjacent. Now, supplementary angles are similar, except now we have to have them equal 180 degrees. So in order for us to draw them adjacent, we're going to draw a line because the line is equal to 180 degrees. And let's make this angle go the other way. So let's say this is 120 degrees, this is 60 degrees. So these are going to be a pair of adjacent supplementary angles. And because there's two angles on a line, these are also called a linear pair. Okay, now let's do an example of non-adjacent supplementary. Okay, let's say this is 100 and let's say it's 100 degrees. And this one is 80 degrees. Because both of them equal 180 degrees, we can say they're supplementary angles, but because they are not sharing a side, these are called non-adjacent supplementary angles. All right, so because they're so similar, there tends to be some confusion, or sometimes we just don't remember. So there are some ways that you could remember the difference between the two. So we know that complementary starts with the letter C. So I'm going to make it 90 degrees. And the same thing works for supplementary. Supplementary starts with an and this, we can make it into 180 degrees. If that doesn't work for you, there's also another way. So in the alphabet, if we're looking at C for complementary and S for supplementary, C comes before S, and on the number line, 90 comes before 180. So that's another way that you could remember that complementary angles are angles that equal two angles that equal 90 degrees. Supplementary are two angles that equal 180 degrees.